Wall shakers.
To start, I just want to simply say thank you. Thank you to the amazing people of Regina Wall Shakers for the trust and confidence you have placed in me to be your MLA again, this time for 4 years instead of just 1. Over the course of the election and the months leading up to it, it was a pleasure and a privilege to continue to connect with so many of you on the doorstep as we chatted about what you want to see in this province that we call home. Please know that those conversations that we had, whether you voted for me or not, were very much appreciated, incredibly meaningful. And they will continue to shape the issues and concerns that I bring forward in this Assembly. And I hope and plan to continue to build on those conversations and connections over the next few years. It is truly an honour to be your member of the Legislative Assembly, and I will continue to work hard to connect with you into the future and continue to be an MLA that shows up. I would like to also take a moment to thank the folks who helped me get re-elected. As you know, things are very different in a full-on provincial campaign compared to a by-election, but my team and Regina Wall Shakers continued to be a mighty force. And I'm so thankful to every single person who helped with every aspect of the campaign, from literature drops, door knocking, fundraising, scrutineering, and so much more. It really truly is a team effort, and I am so very thankful. I do want to say a special thank you to some key people on my campaign, including Leslie and Eric Parsons, Jeanette Shanks, Ramona Clarke, Randy Martin, Ren Smith, and Andrea Krellin. These folks showed up for me every day, and I am so grateful for their efforts. Lastly, I want to thank my family for their strength and help during the campaign. This was a very challenging election for my family. And I want to put some words on the record today about what transpired in regards to my family. In the early afternoon of Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, the day of the televised leaders' debate, a story was posted online that targeted 2 12-year-old grade 7 trans kids for using the change room at their school that matched their gender. At the same moment, the story was also posted on social media, which was shared widely. Later that evening, the photo and identity of my 2 daughters, my wife and I, were subsequently posted on social media, linking us to the story. The next morning, the Premier held a press conference to talk about the story. This was from a CBC News article published on October 17, 2024, describing the press conference. The leader of the Saskatchewan Party said on Thursday that his, quote, first order of business, unquote, if re-elected this month, would be to establish a policy restricting students' use of change rooms in the province's schools to their sex assigned at birth. The Premier made the announcement while surrounded by a cheering crowd of party supporters and candidates at a campaign office in Regina. Now, interestingly, this first order of business hadn't shown up in the Sask Party's full platform document that had been released on the Saturday prior, 5 days earlier. And no mention of this first order of business was made the night before during the leaders' debate. But about 20 hours after the story of 2 trans kids was posted online, the Premier had pivoted, and this was now his #1 priority: elementary school change rooms. The Premier put a target on the backs of my 2 12-year-old kids. He held a press conference to stoke fear and outrage about 2 kids at an elementary school, while my children's picture was circulating on social media identifying them, while unimaginable hate was raging down on my family. Mr. Speaker, what do you think would be going through a 12-year-old's mind when they hear the Premier of their province targeting them? What if this was any child, any other child of any other MLA in this chamber? Would this be acceptable? And yet the Premier didn't even hesitate. This is the Premier's legacy. When people look at the portrait downstairs in the Saskatchewan Gallery, this is what many people will think of. Yesterday, the Premier talked about how we need to be honourable. Would he call going after trans kids during the campaign honorable? I'd like to know. I have sat in this chamber as an MLA since October of last year, and this is the second time that this Premier in 1 year has decided to attack trans kids, some of the most vulnerable people in our province, all presumably because he thought it was a good political strategy. The first was, of course, Bill 137. Really, the fact that these are my kids is frankly irrelevant. But what I will say is, when people show you who they are, believe them. Now, just to be clear, we have heard from two sources in the Sask party that they have been sitting on this information about my kids since last year in the by-election. The Premier owes my children an apology. He owes all transgender kids in this province, especially transgender people in this province, especially kids, an apology for how he has made them feel so unsafe over the last year. Mr. Speaker, I cannot tell you how proud I am of my children. They are kind, smart, adventurous, loving. They are musically talented. One plays the guitar and clarinet, the other plays the violin and trumpet. They love Taylor Swift and airplanes. They like to play badminton, golf, and volleyball. And they have the incredible strength to live as their authentic selves. Transgender kids are not scary. Transgender people are not scary. They are not people that we should be afraid of. They are people who deserve to be treated with respect and dignity and love. As a parent, you want the best for your children. Would I choose a path for my kids where they were told by strangers that they shouldn't exist? Would I choose a path where they regularly fear for their safety? Would I choose for them a path where the Premier of Saskatchewan goes after them during a campaign? No, I wouldn't. But as a parent of a transgender child, you are presented with a stark choice: to outright reject the feelings and words of your child when they tell you who they are, or to choose to embrace your child and love them with all your heart. My wife and I decided to love our kids with all our hearts, and I won't pretend that it was an easy road to start down. It meant doing a lot of learning for us as adults. A lot of reading, a lot of talking, a lot of thinking. We had learned that the majority of transgender youth who live in unsupportive housing or houses run away by the age of 16. That suicide is the leading cause of death among young people in Canada, and that transgender youth are 7 times more likely to attempt suicide than their peers who identify with their assigned gender. The stakes are high for transgender youth, and I was reminded of that at the Transgender Day of Remembrance Vigil just last week on November 20th here in Regina. My wife and I want our children to become adults who are part of our lives long past age 16. That is why we have approached this all with love and support for 2 amazing kids. Last year, during the debate around Bill 137, the pronoun policy, I remember hearing the former member of Weyburn, Dustin Duncan, on the morning edition. When he was asked, "What would you do if your child was transgender?" he responded by saying, and I quote, "I would love them." That is exactly what my wife and I have done. And I don't expect everyone to understand the journey that we have been on as a family. But I hope that my words today can be heard by those who have an open heart and a willingness to learn about the different lived experience than perhaps their own. I hope something good can come from this terrible experience. And I am so very thankful for the good people in our circle who are supportive and caring, our family and friends, the people on this team sitting with me here, and even strangers. I want to say thank you to the many people who have reached out with words of love and support for my kids and my family when they were outed. Your words meant the world to them, and it helped show my kids how many people do support them. And I want to say thank you to the staff at my children's school who work so hard to make all kids feel safe every day. And a special thank you to the principal and vice principal and their classroom teacher. To all the transgender youth out there in Saskatchewan and across this country, as well as their parents and loved ones, and the rest of the 2S LGBTQ+ community, I want to say we on this side of the chamber see you, we love you, and we support you. We want you to be safe, happy people in this province so that you can live your best life. And we will always fight for your rights to be you. I want to say to my constituents that I heard loud and clear from you over the course of the election campaign that elementary school change rooms were not your #1 issue, that you want solutions when it comes to the crisis in our healthcare system, that you want better funding for education in Saskatchewan schools, that you want cost of living relief today. That is what our team will be focused on, as will I. And I want to say thank you again for standing with me. As I come to a close here, I look to the entirety of the Sask Party government team at this point. Attacking trans kids is your legacy too. Either you were here in October last year and voted in favor of a policy that they clearly knew put queer kids at risk, or they were part of a team who fanned the flames of hate in the middle of an election campaign that took aim at 2 12-year-old trans kids. What did they do when they learned that their leader and their party were punching down on some of the most vulnerable people and kids in this province? What did they say to their team? What did they say to their leader? What did they say to their loved ones? I'm proud to say that my team never went after any of their kids. I'm proud to say that my team never attacked trans kids to hold on to power. I'm proud to say that my team never suggested that we use the notwithstanding clause to take away the rights of children. Mr. Speaker, their legacy is attacking vulnerable kids. Prove me wrong. I hope you prove me wrong. Mr. Speaker, I will not be supporting the throne speech, and I will be moving an amendment seconded by the member for Saskatoon Fairview that the Assembly does not support the agenda outlined. I'll move the following. That the Assembly does not support the agenda outlined in the speech from the throne because it fails to include adequate measures to urgently address the challenges Saskatchewan people face regarding health care, education, and the cost of living, and further, that the Assembly has lost confidence in the government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.